just ease on down the road. It's a song to make a mantra in your life. It is a song to live by. And we all know where it comes from, right? What musical does that come from?
The Wiz.
The Wiz. And what did The Wiz come from? The Wizard of Oz. And then what's on Broadway right now? Wicked. So today I welcome you to the Wicked Wiz Art of Oz. So it's 3 in 1. We're going to look at the story of Dorothy and all that she represents and all of the characters in all of these shows and what they can mean for you. This is week 2 of the spirituality of Broadway, or the metaphysics of Broadway. I'm a big fan. How many of you out there are big fans of Broadway? Oh, she's waving. She's not just got her hand up, she's waving. So a lot of us are fans of Broadway. And besides the music, there's a story that they tell. And many of them are these timeless, important stories. And they can talk to us in a way that a book can't do, or even a sermon can't do sometimes. There's something about music and story and put together with these characters. So you are every character in all of those. You are Elphaba, you are Glinda, you are the Scarecrow, you are the Munchkins, you are Toto. Wherever Toto went. Did we lose Toto? So there is something for each of us in these. And all of these stories are a story of a hero overcoming. What's cool about these 3 stories is it's a woman. It's women that are overcoming. Most of the stories are about men, but here we have this little girl in Kansas who's wearing her red slippers, and she wants something better out there. How many of you as little kids did that? I used to stand in front of my mirror. This is silly. I used to stand in front of my mirror and pretend that it was my funeral. And imagined what people would say about me. And I would pretend that I was the people, oh, she was the best, oh, she was this. I had this dream life in this mirror that a bunch of people were actually sad that I died. I guess I didn't think that they would be. Kind of like Dorothy, when she got left behind and felt that she wasn't really getting paid attention to. So I identified with that story of Dorothy. And then we have Elphaba. All these years later, because the stories of the Land of Oz have been told for 120 years. Isn't that something? So they are lasting, they stick around, the struggle of this little girl. And then 70 years after it came out, the story grabbed us again in the groundbreaking musical The Wiz, first all-black cast on Broadway. And that opened the door for musicals like Dreamgirls and Ragtime. And the movie further updated the story to show us Dorothy in Harlem. So it made it relevant. It made it present day. And the struggle that she faced isn't that different than the struggle that we face. The stage and the musicals meet our life. And then 30 years after that, because it was still such a powerful story, came Wicked. And it became one of the best-selling musicals of all time. How many here have seen Wicked? Looks like about 2/3 of us. And if you haven't seen it, have you heard of it? Kind of familiar with this story? It's the prequel. Kind of like those Star Wars movies, only a lot better. So it's the prequel. How did we get here? And what's really special about the prequel of Wicked is that it gives us understanding for why the Wicked Witch is the way that she is and why Glinda got to be how she is. And that's something that we can use in life. If we understand the story of how someone got where they got, if we knew about the consciousness in a person and the experience and the reference point that they had, how different we would meet them. It gives us compassion and understanding. And it gives us a lot of humor when we figure out why these things happen, but it actually makes us have compassion for the villain that we see then in The Wizard of Oz. Now imagine if we expand that to all the villains in this world, all the villains in our life. If we had an understanding, perhaps we could meet them where they are and find more places of healing. That's our job here, is to open up these doors to healing, even with people that are green. The Wizard of Oz and The Wiz and Wicked, they show us how to live. And especially today, I think, that when we look at the greenness of Elphaba, it reminds us of everything that's happening with race in this country. How easy it is to discriminate on someone literally because of the color of their skin. And she spends most of her musical wishing that she wasn't green, wanting to have the life that Glinda had. And then at the end, she comes around to be able to appreciate the strength. She overcomes. So there's a lot more going on here than just a happy little musical. It's a message for everyone who has ever felt discriminated against. It's a piece of social commentary. And so as you listen to the music today, take a moment to put yourself in those shoes. I'm not a 13-year-old girl, so I'm obviously playing against age. And Bruce is clearly a man, but he's going to take on some women roles. We're going to gender bend today. And you get to do that with any role that you see that you identify with, whether it's your gender or your race or not. Put yourself in their shoes. So put yourself in the shoes of a little girl in Kansas who doesn't have the life that she wished she did. And she finds herself looking outside to find something better.
Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly, birds fly over the rainbow. Why, then why can't I? Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops away above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, over the rainbow. Why, then why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh, why can't I?
Can't you just picture Judy Garland leaning against that fence, wishing that she could be somewhere else? And, you know, we have that joke sometimes in Unity, be careful what you wish for, you just may get it. Well, boom, she gets it in the shape of a tornado that takes her off into this land that she goes to. And this is part of the journey. We need to leave somewhere that we are. And we find that we're dissatisfied with where we are on some level. And that may just be in consciousness, or it may be in a job or a relationship or with a habit that we hold. That moment of divine discontent starts. And we start to see something else that could be. That power of imagination comes to us in dreams and in songs and through musicals, and something hits us and we say, there's something more that wants to happen here. That is the way of it. We get parts of the journey where we get a little bit of a rest, but not too long, because we are always evolving. When we think about how far we've come from when we were younger, of course, Christopher doesn't know anything about that because he's the youngest one in the room. So Christopher, get ready. There's a lot of growth and change coming in your life. When we start to dream about somewhere over the rainbow and everything is perfect there, and that's where our journey starts. We're a little innocent. We think that there's a place where it's perfect and that's how it's supposed to be. And we think that the answer is out there. Just like Cinderella last week, sitting on her stool, dreaming about the places that she would go. Somewhere else seems better. And we go through a lot of those change moments, thinking it's going to be better, and then finding out, I brought myself with me. So whatever was challenging me over there is still challenging me over here. But the growth is what comes with it. So we don't curse the tornadoes, because they might turn into sharknadoes. Just watch that this weekend. But we don't curse the tornado, because it's what brings everything up. It kind of swoops everything up and shifts it. And we're in this bit of a divine discontent moment, this divine mess, the goo of it, until things start to break loose. And we discover that we can't go back. It's never quite the same. And no hero skips the challenge, do they? Every great hero story, that's part of it. There's an ending. There's this in-between stage, like the chrysalis of the butterfly, where everything falls apart into goo so that we can be born again. That's our story over and over again. And that's what's happening with Dorothy. So she's going into this crazy land. And doesn't that happen to you? You go into a new place, you start a new workplace, and aren't these strange creatures? Who are these? Or you marry someone, and aren't they a strange creature now that you're with them 24/7? And don't you change? You get a new pair of shoes. You know, they symbolize this part of the journey, that you need to put on something different, because our shoes are what ground us. They are what ground us to this world, and they say, I'm going to walk in a different way, on a different path. They're not just cute. They serve a purpose. And so, like Dorothy, we go on this journey to find out who we really are. It's the same as Jesus did. He was tempted in the desert. He went on preaching everywhere. He could have stayed where he was, safe and sound,